and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 262, and today's date is January 13th, 2014, and the title of this episode is, Are the Chinese Waging War to Seize the Zhongye Island from the Philippines? And we'll get into that a little later in this report. And I hope everyone had a great weekend, and let's get right into the economic collapse news. And what we're going to do is we're going to head out to Spain, and Spain is really getting hit hard. Right now, the Spaniards between the ages of 18 to 24 are saying that they will take any job whatsoever. Doesn't matter how much you're going to pay us, we just want a job. And 48.6% of Spaniards have said this, and the reason why they have said this is because there is just no work out there at this time. 84.9% felt very or fairly likely to have work on what is available. 61.7% considered it equally likely to have to go abroad, and 79.2% said they need to study more. Despite this, an overwhelming majority, 80%, are convinced that at least in the near future will have to be financially dependent on their family. And how bad is it in Spain? Well, IKEA opened up in Spain, and they had 400 job openings, and there were 100,000 applications for those 400 jobs. That's how bad it is. There are no jobs. People are struggling, and they cannot make ends meet at all, and that's how difficult it is. Here in America, Walmart put up job openings for about 600 people, and there were 23 applications to get a job at Walmart. Things are really bad all over, but you know what? The U.S. government, the Fed, the Eurozone, they're keeping the illusion up that everything is fine and we are in this fabulous recovery. How does it feel? Doesn't it feel fabulous? Now, out in Russia, the VTB, which is the second largest bank in Russia, they are complaining over the lowering of its long-term rating by Fitch, saying the assessment is incomplete due to a lack of internal information, and the conclusions have been sensationalized. And this goes on to say that the bank does not maintain contract relations with Fitch Ratings. The agency has no access to non-public information provided to other rating agencies and does not possess complete information for an objective assessment on the credit quality of VTB. And we have to remember that right now China has been setting up their own credit rating agency, and these credit rating agencies are usually paid by other companies to rate them, and this is how it works. And we can see during 2008, S&P, Fitch, Moody's, they were all rating the subprime securities as AAA, and look what happened there. The entire thing just collapsed, and everyone was getting them because they were rated AAA. So if I was looking at these credit rating agencies, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't put too much stock in what they are saying at this point. And we also have to remember that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Syria, and other nations who are not with the private Western central bank, central bankers go after these countries and they try to provoke them. And this is what they do, and this is what they always try to do, because those countries that are not or do not have a central bank controlled by the Western central bankers, they are considered enemies of the central bankers. And we can see this happening all over the place. Now, the Baltic Dry Index crashes again, another 18% in 2 days. And for those people who don't know what the Baltic Dry Index is, I'll read this to you. Changes in the Baltic Dry Index can give investors insight into global supply and demand trends. This change is often considered a leading indicator of future economic growth or contraction, because the goods shipped are raw pre-production material, which is typically in an area with very low levels of speculation. And what has happened is that the Baltic Dry Index dropped by 18%, and this is in a 4-month low, and the index has utterly collapsed over 40% in the last 2 weeks. And the last time we saw this happen, where it dropped quite a bit, and we'll have to see what happens later on, but in May May 20th of 2008, the index reached its record high level since its introduction in 1985, reaching 11,793 points. Half a year later, on December 5th of 2008, now this is the same year, the index dropped by 94% to 663. Look how quickly this can change, and they're very worried right now because it is down about 40% right now, and this is an indicator that something is going wrong, that something is about to happen. Now, the IMF is now adding 4 European countries to the financial risk list. And of course, we have all the others. We have, Cyprus, we have Portugal, we have Spain, we have Italy, we have Greece and Spain. I don't know if I said that one, Spain. But right now they're adding Denmark, Finland, Norway, Poland to its list of countries that must have regular checkups of their financial sectors under an effort to prevent a repeat of the global financial crisis. And they're worried about these countries again. And we can see that this whole Eurozone is completely falling apart, and these countries cannot make it. They cannot have the amount of debt. They cannot make it with high unemployment, with the people suffering, can't find jobs. And if you have 100,000 people applying for, 600 jobs, we have major, major problems. And everyone is just sweeping this under the rug. Not everyone, but the governments, the central bankers are pretending that everything is fine because they do not want to let on that something is wrong, because all of a sudden, if they do, there would be panic everywhere and they wouldn't be able to steal the wealth from every single person. And they want everyone in to the stock markets. They want everyone in, and they want to keep building this up. And when the time is right, everything will come crashing down, and all of those people will lose millions of dollars. They'll lose their investment. They'll lose their pensions. They will lose pretty much everything. And at this time, no one will have work. And this is what they are doing. They did it in 2008, and they're going to do it again. And to help this along, of course, there is Obamacare. And as we know, Obamacare was never intended to help the people. It was never intended to give inexpensive health insurance to the people of the United States. It was always intended to make the insurance companies profitable, to bring in tax revenue so they can maintain the incredible amount of debt that the United States is accumulating. And this is why Obamacare was created. And it was not to give health insurance to every single person inexpensively so they can live better lives. It was not that at all, because if it was, you wouldn't have to add taxes in, you wouldn't have to add penalties in, and this is what they've done, because we can see that this is not for the people. And if we look at this, Obamacare is projected by the Congressional Budget Office to funnel in $1 trillion over the next decade, 2014 to 2023, from American taxpayers through Washington to the health insurance companies. Obamacare's government-run exchanges isn't even a full-fledged private insurance. Rather, it's sort of like a private-public hybrid. Private insurance companies pay for costs below $45,000. Then, if anything is above that, the taxpayers generously pick up the tab and the government pays for the rest. So insurers not only don't have to pay out all of their costs, they also don't have to swallow all of their losses. And like I said before, there is a clause in Obamacare for bailouts. If the insurance companies are losing money, don't you worry, the government will make up the difference. And this goes on to say, if an insurance company expects its cost in a given year to be X, and those costs end up being more than X plus 2%, taxpayers will cover at least 80% of any additional costs the insurer accrues, and we can see what is happening here. There are hidden taxes within Obamacare. There are penalties if you don't take it. There are penalties if businesses don't take it. And what this is going to do is this is going to completely decimate the job market, because we can see already that companies are taking the full-time employees, making them part-time, give them a certain number of hours so they don't have to pay for health insurance, and they're telling these people to go on the exchanges. And of course, once you're in the part-time position, you're not going out buying these policies because it is too expensive. And as we know, these policies are not cheap, plus the deductibles are high. So most likely, you will never ever receive any benefit from the health insurance company unless your illness is catastrophic and you're in the hospital. But of course, you're going to have to pay that first $5,000 to $10,000, whatever your deductible is first, and then the insurance company will kick in afterwards. So they're going to decimate the job market, and we already see it happening in Forever 21 and Home Depot and many, many other companies where they're cutting the hours, or they're saying, listen, we're only going to give insurance to your spouse, the one that's working here. Your wife or your husband will need to go to the exchanges. So that person now is making less money. And if you decide not to take it, you have to pay a penalty or a tax, and that goes to the government and then funneled to the insurance company. So everyone's getting a piece of the action because this is to make money for the government and the insurance company. It is not to provide health insurance to any American whatsoever. And this is all this has been set up to do. And again, like I always say, the title of the bill, the law now, is the Affordable Care Act. Whatever they put on there, it is always the opposite. It is not affordable. It's not taking care of the American people. It's the tax, we're not giving you any care act. Now, we understand that the government wants to spy on us with NSA, with DHS and their fusion centers, and they like to take control. And mostly what they like to do is tax the people, because when we're entering this end game, they continually throw on more and more taxes. And I saw this today, where the Department of Energy is going to start to rate homes. And the Energy Department on Tuesday is rolling out a new improved software to help Americans measure the energy efficiency of their homes. The Department of Energy says its energy scoring software, called the Home Energy Scoring Tool, will help every single American person. Well, let's see how they're going to help us. The Home Energy Scoring Tool can be a powerful motivator in getting homeowners to make energy efficient improvements. To produce a home energy score, a trained, qualified assessor will now come to your home for a fee, of course, and collect approximately 40 pieces of data about the homes, and they will look at the walls, the windows, the heating, the cooling systems during an hour-long walkthrough. The Department of Energy recommends getting a home energy score as soon as the program becomes available, and soon it will be mandatory for every single household. And the Department of Energy says its partners have indicated plans to charge between $25 and $125 for your home energy score. And yes, the size of your home matters, because larger homes use more energy. And this is all being done so they know how much to tax you for your energy uses in your home. And this is going to play into the carbon taxes that will eventually hit. Even though we have record cold temperatures across the country, the only reason global warming is out there, again, is to impose carbon taxes on every single person. And this is going to definitely be part of it, because during the end game, what governments do, just like in France, they tried the eco tax and the people went crazy over that and said absolutely no way, but they did impose a income tax on those people making more than $1 million, and they imposed a 75% tax. Here in America, we have Obamacare and many other taxes and other laws where they're going after people overseas and getting the banks, like in Switzerland, to turn in those people who have accounts in those banks, and those people people who have U.S. passports but work in another country, they want to tax those people, and this will be leading into another tax, and they will score your home, and from that score, what they will do is say, okay, now you need to pay $1,200 because you scored very low on your home. Now you have a choice here. You can spend, $47,000 to improve your home and get it where it should be, or you'll pay the $1,200 tax. Which would you like? And this is how they are playing this out. Now, a watchdog group says that the NSA snooping failed to prevent any type of terrorist attack. And we pretty much knew this, that the NSA was not there to spy, to try to find terrorists, because we know any person who's a terrorist is not going to be talking on the open phone, using email, and posting to their Facebook post. They'd be doing this in a way where they wouldn't be able to have this information retrieved, and they would do it maybe on paper, maybe in code, not on the internet. But of course, the NSA and the government's trying to convince everyone that this isn't set up to stop terrorists. But really what it's set up for is to spy on every single American, because they've contracted with pretty much every single country to have backdoors in to your email, to your social networking, to your TVs, to your appliances, to everything possible. They even intercepted computers and introduced hardware or firmware or software onto the laptops or desktops to have a backdoor into knowing what you're doing. And right now, out of the 225 terrorism cases on the territory of the United States since the attack of September 11, 2001, the NSA prison program did little to protect the nation from terrorism, according to a new study. And again, they are doing this to spy on Congress, to spy on investors, to spy on other countries, and to get patent information, investment information, and to use any information they can possibly get to blackmail congressmen, to blackmail judges, for them to pass laws that normally would not be passed, pretty much like Obamacare. Now, what's happening now is the states are trying to rein in the NSA. And what's happening right now, California state senators dropped legislation that would prevent the state from aiding the NSA's collection of phone and internet metadata on grounds it is a direct threat to our liberty and freedom. Yeah, and it's pretty much in violation of the Fourth Amendment. On the same day, a lawmaker in Oklahoma introduced a similar bill, and Arizona has also introduced a full state proposed reform, and Missouri, Kansas have introduced legislation just like those other states, and Washington and Utah and a few other states are mulling over the model legislation as well. So it looks like the states are now taking a step back, looking at this and saying, you know what, we need to start doing something, and they're trying to put legislation together to rein in what has gotten completely out of control. And the reason why it's out of control is because they were worried, they're afraid, and they need to know what everyone is doing, because they understand that this collapse is coming and we are getting close, and they need to go and put these people on certain lists that are going to pose a problem to their authority, and they need to come down and pick you up when the time is right. This is why this has all been put in place. This is why all of this has happened. This is why the DHS right now is giving grants to every single local law enforcement department and having them pretty much be compliant to what the DHS wants. And what we're seeing now is thousands of surveillance cameras are showing up in cities across the country without a corresponding reduction in crime. Well, the cameras are not there for crime. The cameras are there to keep an eye on every single person so they know what everyone is doing. They're fitted with facial recognition. They are then hooked up into a database where they take that information and they compare it to who you are meeting with, and pretty soon, once they get all of our DNA information, that will be supplied. Once they get the real ID all enabled and activated in every single state, that will also play into the database. And just think about what they're doing here. They have the real ID, which everyone's driver's license with all your information, in a federal database. Put on top of that your facial recognition, your features. Put on top of that your DNA. Put on top of that your social profile. Put on top of that they know your emails. They know where you live. They know who you're meeting. They know who your friends are. They know what you're planning. This is what they are building. This is what they're trying to do. So when the time comes and you're trying to move around inside the country, you will be stopped at a checkpoint. That license will be hooked to everything. They will scan it. They will get a score. They'll get a predictor level, and they'll say, this person has too many contacts. Let's push them aside, and we're very worried, and put them into interrogation. It's almost like the TSA list, but about 100 times worse. And of course, the officials are out there with all these cameras and getting the grants and stuff, say that data is not kept to determine if the cameras are driving down crime. Well, of course there's no data being kept, because this has nothing to do with crime whatsoever. And again, Homeland Security is infiltrating every single local law enforcement department. And Homeland Security wants all these local law enforcement compliant to what they want. And that implies that local police are rewarded with more DHS money the more obedient they are to the federal agency's mandates. And equally unsettling, however, is that all of the added surveillance and added firepower, crime is not going down, because all of this stuff that they're doing is not to fight crime. It's not to fight terrorists. It has nothing to do with this. They are being militarized. They are getting tanks for pretty much nothing, or sometimes for free. They have to be compliant with DHS and fall in line to what they want. Then they'll give them cars. Then they'll give them AR-15s. Then they'll give them those SWAT uniforms. Then they'll give them the tanks. As long as you do what the DHS wants, you are fine, because we will need to take you over once everything completely falls apart. And they've been centralizing, getting every single system ready to go for the collapse. And this is what they've been pushing for the last couple of years. Okay, let's move on here. Now, out in the Ukraine, we understand from my past reports that the Ukraine signed agreement with Russia, and they didn't want to go with the EU, because they looked around and they said, oh my God, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Cyprus, they're all in major debt. They have, 20%, 30%, 60% unemployment, and these nations cannot survive. And then they looked at Russia and said, oh, they're doing pretty well. They don't have private Western central bankers there. The government issues the currency, and things look a lot better. So the Ukrainians said, you know what, let's take a look over there. We're going to sign with them. And all of a sudden, protesters ran out there and said, no, you must sign with the EU. And of course, this was all backed by the Western governments and the Western private Western central banks. And right now we're seeing more rallies out there. Thousands of anti-government protesters have staged a demonstration saying that we want the Eurozone, you should sign with the Eurozone, and we can see how this is pushing forward. And the United States, the central bankers do this in many different countries. You have to remember, if the country has a private Western central bank, they have a puppet government in place, so they're on the puppet government's side. If the country does not have a private Western central bank and they're not selling their natural resources using the U.S. dollar, the U.S. government, the private Western central bankers, are on the rebel side. So in Syria, they're on the rebel side because Syria is not selling their oil using the U.S. dollar. Iran, they are on the other side, where they want these governments removed because they're not selling their natural resources using the U.S. dollar. If we look at North Korea, the same thing. North Korea doesn't use the U.S. dollar to sell any type of natural resources. And that's why they had to go into Yemen, they had to go into Libya, Lebanon, and Iraq, because they had to put them back on the U.S. dollar and sell their natural resources using the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. But things get out of control, and the people of these countries are pushing back, and they want their countries back. So what does the U.S. government have to do? Well, they have to send in drones. They have to send in people to train the locals to fight back against these rebels. They'll train the government people, and this is all about maintaining control, because if they lose control, the U.S. dollar falls apart. And now the U.S. is in Sudan, in Somalia, France is in the Central Africa, they're in Mali, all trying to keep Al-Qaeda back. And normally what this means is Al-Qaeda are those people who are the rebels trying to get their country back, and they call them Al-Qaeda. And we can see this happening everywhere, and right now American troops secretly deployed in Somalia, and the deployment of U.S. troops in Somalia as trainers and advisors is not surprising, as the entire African Union mission to the country is run by the United States. And we see this happening in Sudan. In Sudan, there is a puppet government, and the rebels are controlled by China, and China is pumping billions of dollars into the infrastructure. And we can see what is happening. The same thing happened in Libya. China was pumping in billions of dollars into the infrastructure, and then all of a sudden the United States went into Libya, overthrew Gaddafi, and put the natural resources back on the U.S. dollar. And we can see this is happening all over the place. But what's happening is, again, the rebels in these countries are fighting back. Baghdad says it will sue anyone who buys unauthorized oil from Iraqi Kurdistan. And Libya has threatened to sink any tanker attempting to load crude from its insurgent east. And what we're seeing right now is the puppet government, who are controlled by the private Western central bankers and the U.S. government, are saying, listen, if you buy oil from the rebels, which of course are not using the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency to sell the oil, because they'll sell it for any type of currency or even gold, we are going to sue or destroy the tankers, because the central bankers will lose money if they do this. And this is why this is happening right now. Okay, now we understand eventually the private Western central bankers are going to start a war, and China is going to be involved, and Russia is going to be involved. But China is the main target at this time, because the United States, the private Western central bankers, are threatened by China because of the yuan being the next reserve currency of the world. They've been stockpiling gold. They've been making deals all around the world, and we can see it is a huge, huge threat. And this is why President Obama is making the pivot to Asia and building up the military bases all around Asia, keeping the European missile shield, creating a missile base on Guam, relocating the base in Japan to bring in more sophisticated weapons. And right now China is testing a high-speed missile designed to evade U.S. defenses. China's military last week launched the first test flight of an ultra-high-speed missile vehicle intended to deliver warheads that could get through U.S. missile defenses. According to unnamed Pentagon officials, of course, the test of the new hypersonic glide vehicle, also known as WU-14, was carried out on January 9th and marks a major advancement in China's secret missile program. The Pentagon has confirmed the test, but declined to give further details. And hypersonic weapons use cutting-edge technology and could mark an advantage for China to compensate for its overall weaker military, challenging the current capabilities of U.S. missile defenses. The United States has its own hypersonic program, and Russia is also developing hypersonic weapons at this time. Now, there was a report that says China is planning to seize the South China Sea island from the Philippines, and they're saying that the battle will be restricted. Following Japan's proclamations that it will take over another 280 disputed ownership islands, it appears the increasingly disapproved Prime Minister Abe of militarism and provocation is working. China intends to take back the Zhongye Island, illegally occupied by the Philippines, according to the Chinese. The Chinese Navy has drawn a detailed combat plan to seize the island, and the battle will be restricted within the South China Sea. Philippine military is building up on the island, and the Chinese see an intolerable, the arrogance relying on U.S. support. It seems the Obama administration may have not to take sides in another fight soon. And it looks like they are trying to, you know, do something, and it looks more to me like provoking than anything else. And China's maritime expansion into the South China Sea continues to put pressure on the Philippines and the U.S., and the Philippine Navy have also been stationed in the area to defend the islands. And we understand all of this is about provoking China to do something. China created a defense area in the sea, and right now we saw that the U.S. Had one of their warships approach a Chinese ship, and they almost had some type of collision, and they were provoking them to do something. But we really have to step back and take a look, because when we look out there and we see what the U.S. is doing, just think about this. The U.S. has military in Libya, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and they're supporting the rebel fighters in Syria. The U.S. has military in Sudan, Somalia. The EU and some U.S. military is in Central Africa and in Mali. They have the missile shield going from Poland to Romania, pointing pretty much at Iran and Russia. They have military bases in the Pacific surrounding China and North Korea, and they're putting up a new missile base in Guam and in Romania, and they're moving the base in Japan out of Okinawa to another place to bring in more sophisticated weapons. And Japan at the same time is trying to change their constitution and get rid of Article 9, which will allow them to wage war. They're also trying to create nuclear weapons from their waste from their nuclear plants. They also created a warship, and it is the first warship since World War II. So we can see what is happening at this time. All the pieces are being put into place to be ready for this upcoming war, because eventually they will start something. The central bankers will provoke a country to start a war, and of course they will blame it on the other country. And this is how it works time after time, and they are continually doing this. And this report goes on to say there will be no invasion into the Filipino territories, the report said. The Department of National Defense would have to validate the report about China's supposed plan to seize the island, Defense Department spokesman Peter Galvez said. And they're looking, they're not really making any comments. They're not really saying anything. They put this story out there, and this looks like it is some type of propaganda, provoking and trying to let everyone know that China is about to do something. Are they really going to do something? I don't think so, but we'll have to wait and see. And it goes on to say that some of these warships that China has been building include hovercrafts capable of carrying 1 battalion of Marines and 4 tanks. And this is all building up for what we know that is coming, and which is going to be World War III. And this will eventually happen because they understand that the economic situation is dire. They understand that the dollar is imploding. They understand that they cannot be blamed for this. The Fed, the U.S. government, the central bankers will not be blamed for the collapse. They will definitely blame this on some other country because eventually they think they will have this World War III. The system will be, reset. It might even be nuclear, and whoever is left will be under the new system. There'll be no constitution to the United States. They will have a limited. They would have eliminated a lot of the population during this time period, and they will start the entire system all over. And this is why they are after every single country's natural resources at this point. And in the U.S. itself, right here, We can see that the military forces have been building up, and we're coming to the end game here. That is the whole reason why this is all coming out now. This is the whole reason for the spying. This is the whole reason for keeping track of every single person, having constitutional free zones, and eventually there will be no constitution, because this is their major plan. This is what they're trying to do, and eventually they need to disarm the American people, and we should see some false flags coming up where we're going to see some type of horrific event that will include shooting children. It'll be bloody, and right as soon as this happens, you will know, because the president, the government will be right on it, and this will be played out like you've never seen before. And President Obama will come out saying that we need gun control, gun control, gun control as soon as it happens. And you will definitely see this coming up soon. Now, we understand that Target was hit. We understand that Neiman Marcus was hit. And now there was another report saying that holiday hackers hit at least 3 other major retailers at this time. And right now, the other retailers are unknown, and they're not releasing the information about it. But they are making the case that these attacks have come from someplace in the Eastern Europe, the Eastern area at this time. And I can't even believe, what are they trying to say? Is it North Korea, Russia, China? And it seems like that's what they're pointing to at this time. And they're saying back in November, there were a series of trial hacks that were made and took place, and this was the staging for the December hacks. And we can see they are definitely building their case. And Saturday, I said they were building this up because we understand that CISPA is pending in the Senate, and they want this passed, and they can definitely make a case right now saying, listen, we need to start sharing information with all these corporations, because all this data is coming in much, much later, and if we had the ability to share all this and take control of the internet, it would be much easier for us to take, to have control and to stop whatever is going on. It's the same case about the NSA spying on the people. If we had control of spying on every single person, we can stop these terrorist attacks. And of course, they're the ones who actually do the terrorist attacks, so there's nothing to stop. Now, we understand, and I've talked about this quite often, that eventually we're going to have the doomsday cyber attack, and that is going to hit the power grid, that is going to hit the financial institution, that is going to bring the country to its knees. And we can see, and what's strange about this is that there was another freak algo halted bond trading for 5 seconds during Friday payroll release, and it was they're calling it a glitch. They're calling something happened, and this is what it says. On January 10th, 2013, 0.8 of a second before the Labor Department released the widely anticipated employment situation report, trading activity exploded in Treasury futures, sending the prices much higher in less than 0.1 of a second. The buying activity was overwhelmed. The 5-year T-note market causing a stop logic circuit breaker to trip and shut down trading for 5 seconds. During the halt in the 5-year T-note futures, the news was officially released in Washington, D.C., meaning that anyone wanting to trade on the news would have to wait until the halt was lifted almost 4 seconds later. And this isn't the first time that the Treasury futures have been halted. It happened in November 8th of 2013. It also happened in June 7th of 2013. But what's very interesting about this is that before June of 2013, this didn't happen. It was very, very rare, and you didn't see it happen. And now you're seeing it more often. And this is telling us that there is definitely something going on. Now, I thought it was interesting the way Obama came out, and he's saying that he's calling this a year of action. Now, I remember when he was campaigning to be elected, and he was saying change, and of course, this is not the change that everyone envisioned. Unemployment close to 30%, the debt over $17 trillion. it just, we're having more wars across the world than we've ever had. And this, I don't believe, is the change that everyone was believing. And now when he says the year of action, this kind of makes me a little nervous, because everyone must think in their minds, of course, because we're brainwashed to think this way, year of action means it's good for the country. In my mind, year of action means a collapse, DHS taking over every single law enforcement, people being rounded up, because this is the year of action. But he goes on to say, I'll keep doing everything I can to create new jobs and new opportunities for American families with Congress or on my own, and with everyone willing to play their part. And that's kind of nervous because he really needs Congress. He can't do anything on his own. He's in the executive branch. He takes orders. He doesn't tell you what to do. He doesn't tell Congress what to do. But this also goes on to say, and this goes further, is that he wants to mobilize the country around the national mission of making sure our economy offers everyone who works hard, a fair shot at opportunity and success. What does that mean, that everyone who works hard? Working folks are looking for the kind of stable, secure jobs that went overseas in the past couple decades. And I will make sure that everyone has this type of working, that they'll have new jobs, will have a growing middle class. He sounds like a dictator to me. Business owners are ready to play their part and hire more workers. Really? Business owners are ready to hire more people. Well, what I've been saying is that they've been laying off thousands of people. If that is the case, why do we have unemployment? The amount of people that have fallen off and the amount of people that are in the labor force at all-time new highs. It makes no sense. There are no businesses hiring. Although the economy is stronger and deficits are lower, we've got more work to do together. I'll keep doing everything I can to create new jobs and new opportunities for American families with Congress or on my own, and with everyone willing to play their part. Our success as a country depends on more than success of our broader economy. It depends on the success of American people. It depends on your ability to make ends meet and to sacrifice and to provide for your families with a little hard work. To feel like you can get ahead. Why do we have to feel like we have to get ahead? Shouldn't we know we can get ahead? This is America. This is the land of opportunity. I don't want to feel it. I want to know it. And to me, he sounds like he's talking like a dictator, like he has this action, like he knows what is coming down the pike, like he knows that for those people who are willing to work and work hard, that he'll let you know and he'll make sure that you receive some type of success and that you might be able to feel it too. I don't know. To me, this makes me very nervous in his year of action. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.